Welcome into another episode of Center Stage with Eric Wood. I'm Josh Reed. The Bills coming off another win, this one over the Dolphins in prime time. Bills improved to 3-0 on the season. Eric, I'm not sure anybody's real surprised about the outcome of the game. What may have been the biggest surprise of the night is how long Ryan Fitzpatrick kept his shirt on. After the game, he decides to peel off the top, and it's quite frankly, it's become a ritual at Bill seasons at this point.
It has. It started with that playoff game against the Patriots back in, 2021-ish, 2022, and it's continued. He's become a legend. I had him on my Center on Buffalo podcast last week, and I asked him, I said, do you feel more loved by the fans now than even when you played? And he said, yeah, but he said, nowadays it's almost like he's a Bills fan now too. And so the it's kind of blended where he's gone from player to now fan. And so he's definitely embraced by Bills Mafia now, and the shirt's going to come off. It's become a ritual.
Yeah, he does not hide it. I mean, he is a Bills fan. Working in the media, some of the guys kind of try to camouflage it a little bit, but he wears it on his sleeve very proudly. Look, going to the game now, the Dolphins were desperate. They came in, they really needed a win, especially after looking pretty bad the first couple of weeks of the season. They looked desperate last night, and they played pretty well. What was your biggest takeaway from the Bills win?
Yeah, I mean, it just kept looking like it was going to be a Bills rout early on. The Bills scored back-to-back drives in the first half. They only get 3 real first-half possessions before the kneel down. Miami did a good job of staying on the field on third down. They were 8 for 10 on third down in the first half, which allowed them to extend drive, keeps this Bills offense off the field. Then you have the missed field goal, and then all of a sudden you give up the touchdown right before the half, and it's a tie ball game. And it felt like one of those games fairly similar to a few matchups ago against the Dolphins down there, where the Bills outplay them, but Miami squeaks it out in the end. Ultimately, the Bills get a 10-point lead, and they took care of business late. And look, this Bills team is feasted on allowing other teams to make a mistake, and they don't. Miami makes 2 terrible mistakes late with the roughing the punter, and then you get the 2 interception from Terrell Bernard. So, you get a 10-point lead against a divisional opponent at home. You got an 0-2 team coming in desperate. Like you said, it's a good win. Now, there's going to be plenty to learn from the tape, and, there's plenty to critique from this game as well. But to me, this is a Bills team that just continues to take care of business and continues to put up 30-plus points at just an incredible clip. 12 of the last 13 games for the Bills that Josh Allen played in, not counting the final game against the Patriots last year. They are rolling offensively. And then, yes, this is a banged-up defense. This is a Miami offense that still has a ton of talent. They were able to hang around, put up 21 points, but the Bills get the win.
You know what? I don't need to go back and watch the tape to know how good James Cook's been. I mean, it's incredible how he's playing right now. A lot of praise coming out of the locker room after the game. It's worth every dime that they gave him. And look, before the season, I admit I was kind of in that group that was like, man, I don't know how high you go on a running back, what you'd want to pay him, but worth every dime so far. And am I crazy to think the way the Bills' schedule kind of lines up and the idea that they may be ahead in some of these games? I think there's a puncher's chance James Cook could lead the NFL in rushing yards.
He could, certainly, if he stays healthy. And this offense is just so tough to defend, with the added element of James Cook turning into a star running back in this league. He comes into the league as a second-round draft pick. He has a shaky rookie season. He's, what's his role going to be? And the way he's developed into just a running back with incredible vision, balance. He's a do-everything type of running back, and he is a superstar with game-breaking speed. This isn't a guy that you get to the second, third level of the defense and he gets you 15 yards. He can take it to the house at any moment. There was a couple runs last night against the Dolphins that I thought might go to the house. Ultimately, he gets, tied up by his ankles a couple times where it looked like that big chunk run was coming, but he goes over 100 yards for the second week in a row, and he can just truly do it all for this offense. And you play against the Bills, and you got the former MVP, Josh Allen, playing as good as anyone in the NFL at quarterback, and you also have to defend a power run game with 3 tight ends blocking incredibly well. Reggie Gilliam, the fullback, does a great job. I mean, I just can't imagine what it's like sitting in a defensive game plan meeting as you're about to face the Bills and you say, well, they can get in 13 personnel, run the ball straight down our throat. Those 3 tight ends can also, make hay in the pass game. Oh, and then they can also spread you out, and they have maybe the best player on the planet at quarterback. I mean, this Bills offense is tough, and then obviously give the offensive line some credit. James Cook can't do it without him. Now, there's times where he makes them look good too, and they'd be the first to admit that.
All right, as a former offensive lineman, I'm going to bring up a topic that you might not love. The O lineman eligible play. That Jackson Hawes may be killing that by himself, because in the past we've seen when the Bills get down near the goal line that they love to bring in the tackle eligible, but Jackson Hawes brings a pretty dynamic element now to this offense that they haven't had in the past. Yeah, I know it's just through 3 games and he's a rookie and there's going to be a learning curve, but he does bring a new weapon down inside the 5-yard line.
He truly does. I mean, not just there as well. The Bills ran 6 offensive linemen more than any other team in the NFL last year, and I don't think we'll have it this year. And the sole reason for that is Jackson Hawes. I talked to Aaron Cromer in the preseason. He said he is likely the best blocking tight end I've ever been around in my career. And Aaron Cromer doesn't use hyperbole like that often. I mean, Aaron Cromer never told me I was the best center he ever coached. And so he does not use hyperbole often. And so we've seen it through 3 weeks. He's doing a great job blocking. He's also available in the pass game. And that's not what you get, obviously, when you bring Alec Anderson in to play that blocking tight end role. And what a draft pick he looks like. I believe, when we flipped Kyrie Elam to the Cowboys, that's the 5th round draft pick that we got from them, if my math's correct there. And so, I mean, he's been a great pickup. When he got drafted to the Bills, Brent Key, the head coach at Georgia Tech, has become a buddy just through my time at ACC Network and us getting connected through that. And so I texted Brent and said, what are the Bills getting in Jackson Hawes? He said, maybe my favorite player I've ever coached. And so Brent Key is a former offensive line coach. I assumed that meant he was a really good blocker. And I mean, his role with the Bills between special teams and his role as that blocking tight end, he's carving out quite a niche for a 5th round rookie.
So you had the blocking tight end, Jackson Hawes, catch a touchdown. You had Dalton Kincaid, the pass catching tight end, actually make a really nice block on Khalil Shakir's touchdown catch. Dawson Knox is kind of that guy that's in between both of them. It looks like they have a nice group and the chemistry there and the way they can do things with those 3 guys. What have you seen from that tight end room early on?
Yeah, they've done a great job blocking, and I think they're utilizing their skill sets extremely well to where Dalton Kincaid's generally blocking on the perimeter. He's going against, the nickel, safeties, corners a lot of times. Is his skill set to go and block an inline defensive end? Likely not. Okay, so let's have Jackson Hawes, let's have Dawson Knox take more of those assignments. Dalton Kincaid's doing a phenomenal job blocking on the perimeter where he can use his athleticism and size to overwhelm those guys on the outside. One of the first series against the Ravens, Dalton Kincaid takes a defensive back into the Ravens sideline. And is that excessive? Is it needed? Not necessarily, but those are tone setters. And we haven't necessarily seen that from Dalton Kincaid throughout his career. So he's blocking his tail off right now, and the other 2 guys are doing a great job. And the fact that they can bring the receiving element as well, especially with Kincaid, you get in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends on the field, it puts the defense in a bind. Do we put base defense in and try and stop the run and get bigger against these guys, but then we're likely going to have a mismatch on Kincaid? Or do we leave nickel on the field, but then we could potentially get the ball run down our throats?
The Bills seemed offensively to spin their wheels a little bit in a chunk of the game, in particular in the second half. It was funny because they had back-to-back punts, which it just seems like it's not very often we see that with this offense. I went back after the game because I thought maybe it was 3 straight punts or maybe even 4. And I was like, oh, it was 2. It was back-to-back punts. And they still scored 31 points. The fans, though, man, you would think that this team scored 6 points and just, punted all night long. I tried to tell the fan base, take a deep breath. I mean, this offense, if the offense is the biggest problem on this team, they're going to be just fine. What did you see on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I felt like early on they were able to sustain drives. They were getting chunk plays in the run game, which then opens up the pass. They really attacked those linebackers for Miami. Brooks and Dotson, pretty good run defending linebackers, not great against the pass. So they exposed them at times. Looked like early on, especially with Josh targeting Keon right off the bat, going against Jack Jones. They like their mismatches on the outside as well, with Miami playing with a couple backup corners, but they were going to attack the middle of the field, especially when they were in zone defense. And early on, it felt like the Bills are going to score points on every single possession. And then they get in the second half, Miami makes some adjustments. Felt like they were bringing more pressure on early downs to try and just get this Bills run game out of rhythm, and it worked for a couple series. And then eventually the Bills put up a couple scoring drives at the end of the game. And I say all that, they came out at halftime and score right off the bat with a nice touchdown drive. So to me, to your point, no, I'm not worried about this offense one bit. Now, at times where you're going to be so dedicated to the run game, there's going to be some second and nines that turn into third and fours. And are you going to have some punch? Sure, but the Bills are controlling these games and utilizing the run game extremely well. And I think this offense, I said it at the start, has to be so difficult to prepare for, just in the multitude of ways that they can beat you. And Josh rips off a 40-yard run against the Jets. He had a long run on 1st and 20 last night, but he's barely even using his legs right now, which you can always go back to that well when you need it later in the season.
Other side of the ball, we're going to be riding this wave of young defensive tackles for a few more weeks until Ogunjobi comes back and Ed Oliver gets healthy. Deion Walker, man, the dude's 17 feet tall, and that length came in handy last night because he makes a big play on that interception by Terrell Bernard. How have you kind of seen him develop? I know it's early, it's just 3 games, but how have you seen him develop?
Well, he looks like a heck of a 4th-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
And if he leaves a year earlier, he's likely a 1st-round draft pick, but he ends up falling to the 4th round. And right now he looks like a steal. And he's a guy who started last night with Ed Oliver out. They put him at the 1 technique and put Daquan Jones out at the 3 technique. And I think at times he's flashed and he's done a good job rushing the passer at times. He's made some splash plays in the run game as well. Consistency will come as far as him recognizing plays, seeing double teams coming, not getting washed out of his gap. But, he's a guy that I'm really excited about. I was calling the game last night next to Ross Tucker, who spent some time playing offensive line with Buffalo. He's worked in the media for a number of years now, and he was talking about how much of a steal he feels like Walker is, getting him in the 4th round. Just the combination of size and athleticism, it's just rare. I mean, guys that are 6'7", 340 that can move like that, they're just rare. I understand there was a lot of risk with the back injury last year, and how does that affect him moving forward? But for right now, I mean, he's been impressive out there to me.
Well, coming away from last night's game against the Dolphins, any concerns with the defensive ends for 2 different reasons? First, Joey Bosa, over 80% of the snaps. That seems like a lot for him, especially early on in the year. And then on the other side, Greg Rousseau kind of off to a slow start so far this season. What have you seen with the defensive ends, and any concern with Bosa and the snap count being so high? Now, obviously, they have an extended amount of time off now going into the Saints game.
Yeah, you get some rest now. You also don't have Michael Hoyt out there. You only have 4 defensive ends up for the game, one of them being, an undersized Javon Solomon. And so, do they wanted that percentage to come down? Potentially, but you get in pass rush, obvious pass situations at the end of the game. I'm sure Bosa's begging to be out there, and he's been impressive to me this year. His effort that he plays with, I've said this a couple times, but he's playing like a guy that's enjoying being in Buffalo, enjoying being healthy. I mean, his motor and the effort that he plays with is exceptional. And Tua did a good job for the most part last night of, taking some easier throws. He goes for under 150 total passing yards in the game, but it felt like there was some easy completion on the outside, whether it was the crossing routes with man-to-man coverage or some soft zone where he took some plays on the outside to Hill and Waddle where that doesn't give a whole lot of time for the defensive line to get there. That was a Miami offensive line that's looked really poor through the first 2 weeks of the season. And last night, they keep Tua fairly clean, only one hit in the game. Tua did a pretty good job with his pocket presence as well. Not a ton of concern there, just understanding what and who Greg Rousseau's been throughout his career. And then, honestly, I'm excited about Bosa. If Bosa can keep this trajectory going throughout the season, not to build it up too much, but he is the guy that the Bills have been missing. The guy that super high effort, constant pressure on a quarterback with a four-man rush. Even if he's not getting there was a countless times last night where he's giving Tua one of those little taps on the shoulder to let him know, hey, I'm close, I'm here. And so I think, knock on wood, if he can stay healthy, I truly think he could be the difference maker come playoff time that the Bills have been missing.
Bills defense held the Jets 0 for 11 on third down a couple of weeks ago. The Dolphins, a different story. They were a lot more successful on third down. What's your level of concern there? Because that seems to be something that creeps up on the Bills defense now and again.
Yeah, there's some concern there. And I'll say this. I think this secondary will continue to improve as the season goes on, where you get Bishop with more reps, more time working with Taylor Rapp, as you potentially get Hairston back. And, you work these guys into the mix. And, at the second level of the defense, you're without Matt Milano yesterday. So, Trey White back for his second game after missing the opener. And so, there's been some, holes in the secondary at times, which has allowed for, easier third down conversion than you want. 3 third and longs converted in one drive. The percentages of that happening are low in this league, but it happened on the touchdown drive right before the half for the Dolphins, which ties the game, doesn't give the Bills the ball back before the half for a 2-for-1 opportunity with them getting the ball to start the second half. It's, small sample size. The Bills come in to the Dolphins game number 1 in the NFL on third down defense, mainly because of that Jets game. Falls back probably more towards the media now. One of the biggest concerns last year for the Bills leaving the season was 29th in the NFL in stopping people on third down. In 2 out of 3 games this year, we've seen that be an issue. And so I think they're still figuring out what exactly their plan's going to be. They've given some different looks at the line of scrimmage with more 5- and 6-man, looks up at the line of scrimmage for offenses to deal with. Is there concern? Yes. But with Hoyt and Ogunjobi and hopefully Matt Milano coming back, Hairston getting in the mix, more time on task with the safeties, I think this can be a great group and to where it doesn't become a concern later down the road.
3 games, 3 wins. What have you learned about this team early on in the season?
Offensively, they picked up right where they left off last year and scoring over 30 a game, balanced attack. Okay, you're going to give us a light box. We're going to pound you with James Cook and we'll stick with it. This isn't Joe Brady needing a shot for his ego. I need Josh to have all these stats. He's willing to pound you out on the ground. And, I think, Josh talked about going out of last year that he wanted to get better with his pre-snap reads. I think we've seen that at times this year where the ball's coming out quickly, getting to some incredible checks, thinking back, especially to that James Cook play against the Ravens where he checks to make him fake block against the cover 0 and then slip out for the long gain. So I think offensively, they picked up where they left off and maybe even got a little bit better on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, some flashes from some new guys defensively, and some great individual performances. Still a work in progress. And then special teams wise, we're on our second punter of the year. Tyler Bass is out, Prater's in, only 1 missed kick for Prater, some longer returns with this new kickoff rule coming out to the 35. So, and there's been some bright spots for these special teams units, and then some lowlights as well. But I think ultimately through 3 weeks, one, you love being 3-0 with a weekend off to rest. And, you get that first one against the Ravens, and we knew that schedule would lighten up. This could be a fun run for the Bills.
All right, I'm going to read you a list real quick. I want to make sure I get all these guys right, okay? These head coaches have a couple of things in common, all right? You've got, let me click on this here. Here we go. Ready? John Madden, Vince Lombardi, George Allen, Ray Flaherty, George Hollis, Don Shula, Paul Brown, Tony Dungy. Those guys are all in the Hall of Fame, every one of them. Those are the only head coaches who have coached in the NFL 9 seasons or more and have a better winning percentage than Sean McDermott. I mean, look, and I know when Bills fans hear that, the ones who are never going to be fine with Sean are going to say, yeah, but what's his record? Those guys all have Lombardi trophies, right? But what's that say about what Sean has been able to do every single year? This is a team that is a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, it's the consistency that he shows up with on a day-to-day basis that then leads to a consistent culture within the building to where generally the Bills aren't the team beating themselves week to week. They let the other teams make the mistakes. And what him and Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula and everybody in that front office, everyone upstairs at One Bills Drive has done such a great job at creating an incredible culture that now star players want to come and be a part of. I understand all that starts with making the correct draft pick with Josh Allen, but what Sean does from a leadership perspective, I also think he's evolved. He's gotten younger with his coordinators. He's evolved with his aggressiveness on fourth downs and in everything that he's done to continue to try to get better himself, that daily improvement that he constantly preaches to his players. He lives it out too. And I'm proud of him. I mean, he came in 2017 and took over a team that everyone thought was tanking. He put the confidence in us to go break the playoff drought. Obviously 2018 with some cap issues and a rookie quarterback that they didn't necessarily want to play in his rookie year or start off that soon. They have a bad year. 2019 on, they've been dominant. This has been a dominant team, and a lot of that starts with the head ball coach.
All right, finally, what's Eric Wood do this weekend with no game to call? I mean, we got a little. I know Bills fans, it's almost like sit back Sunday for Bills fans, right? They know their team's got the win. They get to sit back and see what happens around the league. What do you got on the agenda for the weekend?
Got a little golf right now.
There you go.
My high school's from Cincinnati's playing down in Louisville tonight, so we're gonna go check that out. And then I'll be a dad most of the weekend. Baseball scrimmage tomorrow, flag football game Sunday, a little church, and then sit back and enjoy those games with the Bills being at 3-0, and just check out some of the other games come Sunday night, and Monday night.
All right, Eric. Hey, hit them straight today. I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for watching and listening to the show. We appreciate you as always. And Eric, I'll see you next week when the Bills take on the Saints at home and look to improve to 4-0 on the season. Thanks again for watching and listening to Center Stage with Eric Wood.